Seattle. Cyberspace.
Cyberspace. All these cyber guys, okay.
Cyber guy.
Yeah.
all over the world.
Okay, international.
International.
Okay, Irita?
Michigan.
Okay, Jim? Where are you from? Oh, one of those guys, all right. Dave? Chicago?
Utah. New Mexico.
Colorado.
Texas.
So first of all, you're being, Rhea?
Arkansas.
Virtual, Tampa Bay, and Charlotte.
Okay, okay. All right. So, Madam and Mr. Board members, you're well represented here. These are your constituents, and they're certainly from all over the world, as we heard. They did a gallery walk that helped them identify and will help you identify some of the gaps that they're currently experiencing in their chapters. So let me quickly take you through what they went through. We used the Robinson and Robinson model of GAPS, performance analysis. So they try to define the should for their chapters, the is, current state, define the difference between the is and the should, got down to some root causes after several walks in the gallery, and then came up with some solutions that they want to share with you. Okay, a good model. They learned how to use it very quickly, and we divided them into 4 rounds. We used the chapter survey and came up with these 4 M's. This is what they talked about. Now, we could have come up with any number of concerns, but they did rounds and came up with each of those 4 M's. Okay, we'd like to really start with Dick. No, maybe we're not going to start with Dick.
You know what?
He's right there. Okay.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and we'll come back to the leadership.
Okay.
How about
So if you'll go now to that agenda slide. So they used the model. They came up with 3 concerns. Okay. So we'll come back to what Dick taught us this morning about leadership. We also heard several other things in terms of left brain didactic kind of skills this morning, and then we synthesized them this afternoon. So what we'd like to do is share those 4 M's findings with you. Patty, do you want to start and tell us what they found out about or what they want to share with the board about meetings? But before we do that, will the board members come to the front? We have chairs for you so that your customers can look you in the eye. They really have a great deal to share with you, and this is really what your year will involve, listening to these concerns and seeing if the gaps they've identified are on your agendas. Okay?
We looked at 3 different topics. We looked at income, we looked at managing the money, and then we looked at how to save money within the chapter. And our should, what should we have? We said, you know, every chapter should have a sustainable budget that's tied to our goals. And that we should include in that sufficient money for good programming. What is our current state? Well, we generally have cost-based budgets, sometimes ad hoc, and not as well thought out for the whole year about what we need versus what we can bring in. We heard a lot of this culture of frugality. Getting to the root causes, we're thinking that that's kind of based on some legacy concerns of chapters being on the brink. And oh my gosh, we're weak right now, we're going to come back, but we better not spend anything. And so now that we've got some chapters, I heard many tales of chapters with thousands of dollars in the bank, but they are frugal because they're concerned about what's next and want to be able to ensure that they have their sustainability going forward. On the other hand, a cost-based budget versus a budget based on goals is kind of in conflict there. If you've got some money, maybe you could afford to bring the speakers. We also said we don't necessarily have a good value proposition. When we're talking about income, how do we get people in the door? How do we get membership? How do we get people to come to our events? And I think this is not just a chapter issue, but it's a society-wide issue. What in the world is our value proposition, and why should somebody join our organization? So our solutions, and mostly the top 2 are really at the chapter level, to develop budgets based on market research, like what is ASTD charging, and that sort of thing, and what are our goals. and to set realistic ones there, and include a savings line in the budget. So rather than just being a break even, yeah, maybe break even, but if you've got a cost item called savings, then you're putting a little away for bringing in a bigger speaker, or if a meeting falls flat, or weather permit, you know, all kinds of things. You've got a little rainy day fund. This great WIFM statement is what we would really like from you, which is nothing new. So the income side, I think everybody that came to this board talking about income, it was relatively pretty good, and we felt, you know, this is something we have to do. This is our responsibility. Then it came to managing the money. And again, to manage it, we need to have a sustainable budget so we know what the heck we're managing. We need financial transparency. And with that, we said, you know, how many of our members know what the chapter's financial status is? Should they? And I think that's up to each board to decide what that level of transparency is. But if people are wondering why they got a dues increase, you might have to come forward with that. And also now we have this accurate, complete, timely, real-time recording and reporting of all financial events. That's the blue sky. Where we are right now is this kind of stuff is labor intensive. We have limited reporting capabilities. It's haphazard, random, based on whoever's sitting in the chair at that time. Spending tends to be perhaps reactive as opposed to well thought out. At the root cause, we don't have an automated system. Many chapters don't, and those that do have kind of maybe, some have it better than others. But financial management is not necessarily an HPT skill set, so it's difficult for some chapters to get somebody to sit in that chair who actually understands budgeting, who actually understands P&Ls, balance sheets, and all those sorts of things. So what could the society do to help? Well, you don't have to have an MBA really to do the bookkeeping for a chapter, but a Finance 101 little workshop might be kind of worthwhile, getting into setting budgets, what goes on a P&L, that stands for profit and loss, and what goes on a balance sheet and why do we care. And then things that we talked, and Mickey, you were here and you got an earful this morning. Where did he go? I'm glad you're sitting front and center. The integrated web-based, real-time, online, integrated membership, collection, reporting, marketing, banking, and dishwashing tool. Okay. And then savings. And under savings, we were looking at more than just a savings account. We were looking at how can we save the chapter money, save the chapter from legal or financial problems. And utopia would be that we all have crystal clear guidelines for the tax-exempt, nonprofit, and liability issues and guidelines and reporting and all that stuff that may face a chapter. What we have right now is confusion on what to file, how to file it. Do we really have to file it? If we choose not to file it, are we okay? If the only reason I would file is to become a chapter of excellence, then I won't become a chapter of excellence because I don't want to bother with filing. We don't have bonding or any financial liability for the chapter or for the officers. And the root cause is that there's a lack of policy. We aren't lawyers. Worse than not being MBAs to do the finances, try to understand the tax code and the legal ramifications of these things is kind of scary for those of us that don't like reading tax code. And there's no real direction on what is required and why. And is it that black and white? We really don't know if it's black and white. So what we would like from you is to tell us, chapters, it's black and white, or it's not. And if it is, this is how ISPI is going to operate. Here are the federal forms you must file. We have filed them on your behalf, or we have filed them and you follow suit with your own whatever, and each state has their own things here. We would like very, very clear step-by-step guidelines on what's needed here so each new officer doesn't come in paralyzed by wondering, oh my gosh, we didn't file a tax return. Do we have to? So I think from this group, we want guidance here on the legal stuff. We want some help with understanding finances and some tools to make those finances tied to the membership and that whole wonderful tool. Yes, Paul.
Let me just get a sense of people. One of the challenges on that is once you identify a big problem, I'm doing it personally with my chapter in relation to society. So when I started looking at tax code, so the question I have is if we were to say stand up a society banking system, which you deposited you have a sub account in society's banking system, and you're losing money now, would that be an acceptable solution? I'm talking through my hat, I don't have a solution in mind.
No, that's not what we're looking for.
No, okay, I'm just trying to get an understanding. Because one of the challenges run into is that the reason there's a legal tax separation in chapter society is because if we remove that separation, then society has to be able to provide auditable information on the chapter. So I can just sort of see why they shake their head, no, we don't want, we have to come to you for checkbooks or something like that.
Right. So maybe we don't want to file as one society, but gosh, if we were told these are the 3 forms and check your state for this.
Support, not control.
Thanks, Jared. Any other questions on the?
I was curious on your second chart.
Would this be the one you're referring to?
Financial management is not an HPT skill set. Is that the way it should be?
Did I say that wrong or
In the book fundamentals of performance technology, there's an entire section on financial management. And we have that as an important intervention tool because opening the book, understanding cash flow and all that are important interventions. And you finally mentioned that. So maybe that one
Maybe don't have it. It'd be great if they did have it.
I mean, maybe we should say really bookkeeping skills.
Right.
There's quite a difference. And would the people that came in that were part of the managing agree that what we really meant here was really bookkeeping skills? Is that,
Not business acumen 101 thing.
no, it was really the mechanics of, okay. Steve, thanks for clarifying that.